After a 1 month break and thousands of kilometres travelled, the V8 Supercar Championship Series reaches Australia's northernmost stop on the tour. Welcome to the Northern Territory, and this is Darwin's Hidden Valley, and Neil Crompton takes a closer look.
Lee, Hidden Valley in winter is hot. It's seriously hot. And when added to the massive cockpit temperatures of a V8 supercar, this is a major issue to manage at this 10-turn, 2.9k track. The main straight is 1,100 metres long and immediately leads to both a passing opportunity and a hot spot at turn 1. Passing down the left side under brakes can pretty much be a textbook move here. What is not a textbook move is hanging on to the left and extreme side of the road after the race start. The road and the race line narrows and it forces cars back to the right, and those drivers that don't yield down here always end up in strife. Now, after you've come out of turn 1 and through the high-speed S's, there's a wonderful lump in the road that really rocks the cars across turn 3. In itself, it's no big deal, but handle it badly and brake while the car is half flying and you've got a tyre unrated, and it's very easy to lock a brake. Up in the valley, the hairpin is probably more hot spot than passing off. As the weekend wears on, it gets very slippery off the line as the dirt and rubber and asphalt debris begins to gather. On occasion, we see people out-brake themselves here into turn 8. The road cambers away a little offline, and there's a small crease in the road that can trigger a lock brake. The final turn also offers a glimmer of hope for an inside move on the approach, but this is most certainly a place where the move must be done early to avoid contact at the apex.
Time to take a look at the Mitsubishi Fuso starting grid. From the 5 rounds so far, we've had 3 different pole sitters. Guess what? First repeat pole sitter back-to-back for Jason Bright at Ford Performance Racing, and he will start right alongside the front row. Mark Scaife did a very good job. It will be a titanic battle down into turn 1. We're going to take you all the way through the grid, all the way to the back. There are plenty of stories to tell. A troublesome weekend thus far for the defending champion. There he is, Russell Ingall in 13th place. He's not all that well today. We can tell you a little bit more about that. Will Davison out qualifying his teammate Stephen Johnson, and the Super Cheap Auto Racing team having a few worries. Cam McConville there in 19th, and Greg Murphy quite a ways back. And we see the return of the Geldwen Ford for James Courtney. That is the car that he started the year with at Adelaide. The new car, it's repaired, it is back. We'll see how it performs. And yes, you're not seeing things. That is Steve Ellery. He is back in the championship for this round and the upcoming Queensland race. Of course, pairing with Paul Morris there in the Sirame Commodore, who's a little further back down the grid. Neil, this one, although it's the shortest race of the weekend, it will be hot, hard work. It will be indeed, and it's a bit of a culture shock because some people will have strung together some laps of duration over the 2-hour Friday practice session, which Mark Scaife dominated with a stunning time. The only bloke in the 8th so far this weekend. But you tend to go in and out of the pits every 5 or so laps. What happens here is that once you've done a build-up of laps and the cockpit temperature rises, in some cases to around 60 degrees Celsius, and you sort of get to about that 10-lap mark and you think, whew, this has really got my attention. As always, plenty of onboards to show you the action of these guys hard at work in race 1 of the 5th round. 34 laps, it's 100 kilometres. As always in our triple race weekends, 100 for the first race, followed by 2 140k events after that. There's the front row, nice and evenly balanced. Ford versus Holden. Good start, Max Wilson down the outside. Does Jason Bright have the jump? It looks like he's got half a car length. Oh, gets a little unstable under brakes. Skates right alongside, he goes the outside option. But Bright will maintain the lead. Garth Tander runs with them. They sort themselves out through 1. It's up here through the S's and then into 4 where trouble can sometimes erupt. Everything's clean so far. Diving on the inside is Jason Richards on Stephen Richards, and it pays off. Good clean move. High risk, but he got through. No drama. Oh, Bright gets it sideways on cold tyres right in the middle of turn 5. Ingall trying to go around the outside of Jamie Whincup. I don't think it paid off on that time round. Good job, Jason Bright, to recover then. He had the car well crossed up. He just came off line slightly, slid through the corner, didn't really yield much of a margin
If anything, he's held the margin.
Furthering that story on Ingall's illness, earlier today he took an intravenous drip just to help rehydrate. He was not feeling very well. Jason Bright also had a rough night last night. There's been a bout of the flu going around, a bug, 24-hour bug. But it hasn't affected him. Pole, and he leads this race over Mark Scaife, Garth Tander, Rick Kelly and Mark Winterbottom in 5th.
A little bit of bodywork damage we noted on Lee Holdsworth car, the Gary Rogers Repco Valvoline Cummins entry. He's down at the moment in 17th. You can see a little bit of tyre smoke coming off the guard on that car. Back to Bright up at turn 5 now, and Scaife's right under the rear wing of that car.
Lee, just to expand a little bit on your comments before about both Russell Ingall and, of course, Jason Bright, both the pole sitter and series champion, have a very similar virus. Bright overnight has been to see a doctor and is taking some medication to settle his stomach. The FPR crew say that adrenaline was worth a little bit extra to him in that pole-winning lap. Russell Ingall, well, he's been asleep in the Stone Brothers transporter between qualifying and this race. To quote his engineer Barry Hay, he said, "Yesterday, my race driver looked like an 80-year-old.
I saw him as he came out of the transporter about to go to his car before this race. Normally he stops and has a bit of a chat. We all know Russell's personality, but he wasn't on for a chat, I can assure you. 0.4 of a second is the official margin between Bright and Scaife. 10.61, fastest lap of the race so far. Mark Scaife, 6/100ths quicker that lap than Jason Bright, who runs out of road on the exit of 1.
Zinger replay, opening lap. This is the drag race from the start line down into turn 1.
And Jason just pinching the brakes on a couple of occasions on the run in there with cold tyres, but didn't really come offline too far. Mark was trying to position himself so that he could go around the outside and be in a better position when they got to the S's. Here's a little bit of aggravation though. Winterbottom and Lowndes just making light contact through 1.
One real loser out of these opening 3 laps in terms of positions, that is Jamie Whincup for Triple Eight Racing. He has been shuffled back out of the top 10 to 13th, and Todd Kelly, who was hustled out of the top 10 shootout in the dying seconds by Paul Dumbrell, has forced his way back up into the 10. We'll see if Whincup can regain those positions.
Just to add about Todd Kelly there, Lee, he may have a problem of sorts. His crew for Car 22 are on standby. His engineer, Matthew Crawford, intercepted a radio transmission from him a minute ago. It does sound like he may have flat-spotted another tyre. He flat-spotted a tyre during qualifying today. They've lost one of their bank of 12 for the weekend when he flat-spotted a right front.
He just put a move on Stephen Johnson to move to 13th. He's in behind Whincup now. Whincup's battling with Russell Ingall. 10.29, fastest lap of the race. Jason Bright, 0.7 the margin last time through, and Brad Jones has gone off. They made some geometry changes to the team BOC cars in the front end between the Winton and this round of the championship. They thought they'd made progress with the cars, and last night as we left the circuit, Brad and John were confident that they'd taken a step forward, but it didn't translate in qualifying today. They started right up the back.
As always, there is a compulsory pit stop for tyres, and that pit stop window opens up shortly. Lap 5, and they've got all the way through to lap 24 to get it done.
Here's Bradley just pinching the brake and going off at turn 1. There's some AstroTurf around the racetrack this year as well, just on the outside of some critical corners. This particular one then at 4, and also up at the final corner, just to try and stop cars digging out the dirt behind the curbing in various places around the track.
Neil, it's always difficult to absorb a bit of information out of Ross Stone sometimes about their performance and where they're running at the moment. I had a little bit of a chat to him before this race. He said, we're just trying to find the speed. It's not quite there at the moment, but the car, we're trying to take some understeer out of it. But when we do that with our cars, we actually go slower. And as you know, in these temperatures, sometimes that understeer in the beginning is not a bad thing as the rear tyres go away and it balances out.
And rear tyre condition, especially the right rear tyre around here, is very important. Got to try and nurse it a little bit as we look at Russell Ingall working. He's chasing Max Wilson here.
And Neil, you can tell he's not well when you look at his eyes. He's got that sick, glassy look about them as his team owner watches on.
He's coming into the final corner now. Critical run onto this straight set at the top of the show. It's 1,100 metres long. Cars building up to about 265, nearly 270 Ks at the bottom end. Green light means that they've not yet taken their compulsory stop for tyres.
And there's always a lot to be said for the Stone Brothers power plants, but there's not much wrong with the WPS Ford ahead of him. Max Wilson is having a stunning run in 10th at the moment as Luff is in. And there is damage on the side of that Fujitsu Ford. Yes, there is.
Pit lane is about to spring into action here, Lee. Ambient temperature currently is 34 degrees. On track, it is 43. I had a word to Matthew Nilsson, who engineers Garth Tander's car prior to the commencement of this race. We should remember that Garth won the final race here last season and finished on the podium. He said on Friday, in our big 2-hour practice session, he was able to do a race simulation, Garth Tander, and the times he was able to extract from the HSV dealer team Commodore were comparative with last year's third and final race. They were confident in terms of their tyres and their race weekend heading into the opener today.
And Greg, don't forget that he is in Todd Kelly's car, which won the round last year. So everything is looking good for Tander. But so far, the man to chase and to beat is Jason Bright. Further back in the pack, contact between Steve Ellery and Paul Radicic. Team Surame and Team Kiwi entries coming together. Winterbottom's in, Lowndes is in.
Okay, mate, I've got you. Turn off your CPS light. Pit lane is clear. Stop on my original mark, please.
Good stop, Winterbottom. Eagle was umming and ahhing about whether or not he'd stay or go.
Go.
Tander in.
Neil, Winterbottom got a good stop, like you said. Then he was in between Tander and Lowndes on his stop. He has leapfrogged both those drivers on the exit of that stop for Winterbottom.
Darryl, absolutely spot on. I think it was the passenger side or left rear for Garth Tander, but as you say, Winterbottom was able to do some good moves in pit lane here. Great work by the Ford Performance Racing team. He leapfrogs Tander coming through the pits.
You'll find that Scaife will come in this lap as well, and I just heard on the race control channel that they're observing somebody for weaving in a straight line. We went to a briefing yesterday with Tim Schenk and Colin Bond, Peter Wallerman, and they're going to have a low tolerance for people covering down the inside of the main straight here this weekend, and I understand it was Max Wilson that they'll keep a close eye on. So Bright and Scaife in. Race leader in second place.
Saw how quick Winterbottom's stop was. Let's see if they can replicate that with Bright. They have. Great work, FPR. Pressure's on the HRT men now. Bright's gone. So
Just 2 rear tyres for Bright Lee and the safe escape, but the same again for FPR. Fantastic stop.
Everybody's doing rears. Nobody's gone down the right side of the car, so it pretty much tells you what you already know about this place and the way it knocks around the rears.
And this shows you how that picture shapes up. And exactly the gain Mark Winterbottom got from that brilliant stop.
That looked like a fantastic stop, didn't it? I reckon that one would be in the 3s for sure. Not bad when you consider the weight of the V8 supercar rim and tyre combination, the weight of the gun, getting the wheel off, getting the new one on, getting it on the drive lugs, torquing up the wheel nut and getting the car dispatched in less than 4 seconds.
At the time, you could hear a really animated Rob Crawford at the Toll HSV dealer team. Todd's brother Rick had just completed service, and Rob screamed at his blokes. He said, hey, get this stuff in, because he knew that Todd was peeling in. They had to get rid of the air jacks of the rattle guns and the like out of Todd's way, because the HRT pit box is just next door here.
That was critical exit from Rick Kelly, who came out, went to the left side of the road, covered Mark Winterbottom. It was a good stop, so interesting that Kelly chose to do the right-hand side tyres and not the 2 rears.
Winterbottom is under pressure now. He's trying to get ahead of Kelly, and he's being hustled and muscled by Lowndes.
Remember, they had a great race in New Zealand. 2 of them nose to tail for lap after lap, so they've played this game before this year.
And that round may very well have been a turning point in Mark Winterbottom's career. He always knew that he had the talent, the ability, but that was the first race where he got to go head-to-head with the big boys, the big names. He got a taste of it, and he's got plenty more of it since. He has really stepped up, and so too has the team. And look at Rick Kelly just skip away in straight line terms. Inside move from Lowndes down into turn 1. Is he close enough? No is the answer.
Here with the onboard shot there, just how judicious Craig is with the gentle application of the throttle coming off there in second gear. Very easy to excite and murder the rear tyres on this racetrack in several locations. And with only a third of the race ticked off, or a little less than a third of the race, you can't afford to hammer them too much. So he's got to be a little bit patient here. A lot of racing to come tomorrow, including that reverse grid race, which eats up tyres more because you've got to try and push the car in places to make your competitive passing manoeuvres. Tyres typically don't like that. 140 Ks both the races tomorrow. They've got probably somewhere between 55 and 60 kilos of fuel on them at the moment. Obviously they'll have more tomorrow. Oh, that was Rick a long way offline there at turn 10 in front. He was about a car width wide of the apex. Race leader is Jason Richards. Here's the little touch up at turn 5 the lap before, or this lap. Zinger replay, Craig Lowndes on Mark Winterbottom. No big deal. Here it is from a different angle. Craig's up on the curbing, just gives him a tiny little tap.
Here are the drivers who have yet to pit for their compulsory stop for the tyres. Jason Richards, Russell Ingall, McConville, Murphy, Radisich, Morris and Marcus Marshall. So 7 drivers still to pit. Is this the man still in the box seat? You would have to say so.
Track condition is definitely a little slower this year by comparison to last year, and I suspect it's the strong southeasterly breeze. Rusty covered the temperatures before, 34 degree air, 43 track, so it's come up 3 degrees on the shootout temperature. Last year, the fastest lap of race 1 was done by Todd Kelly. It was a 9.8. 10.2 is the best we've seen, and it's almost a 10.3, in fact, when you look at the minor detail for Jason Bright.
Wilson having a very strong run in the WPS Ford. Both he and Jason Bargwanna are in the top 50% of qualifying earlier today. Unfortunately, Bargwanna slipped back in qualifying and started from 18th, but Wilson is having a very strong weekend.
Lee, in qualifying, we heard Todd Kelly complain about flat spotting in quite a major fashion. A right front tyre. Well, already in this race, he's been on the radio again. This is, again, the driver's side, a right front tyre. Look at this area here. It's only minor. Kelly was able to at least keep the car going until the pit window opened today, but that already he's lost 1 tyre from his bank of 12 for the weekend, and as you can see, this one quite affected.
Oh, Bright. This guy was effectively the race leader.
What's happened there? Did he lock a brake and then damage that front left, or did he just pick up a puncture? That critical inside edge that Greg was just showing you is something you've got to be very careful with around here. It's easy to lock a brake, as we've detailed, and it's even easier for it to turn into a puncture in a hurry. Now, what happens here? It pops before he gets to the braking area, but was the damage done earlier in the previous lap, I wonder?
270 kilometres an hour heading down into turn 1. You don't fancy that happening. And Bright's doing a very good job to try and get it back to pit lane.
He's already back around 17th. That was Stephen Johnson that just went past him. They've got the front left ready. Yeah, this is heartbreaking for FPR and for the Cat team after such an outstanding job in the shootout. Doesn't look like they've got much damage to deal with though, so that's good. They can just whack the other one straight on and he's gone. So they processed him quickly, but look at the amount of time that he lost on the racetrack.
Interesting to find out what exactly happened there, whether he did lock a brake earlier.
For a lap or two with cold tyres, mate. Brake balance back a little bit with cold
That's
tyres.
Phil Key just saying put a little turn or two of rear brake bias on it, because they feel really odd when you put a cold tyre on with 3 warm ones. The car will just steer like a truck for a lap or so until the temperature and pressures equalise. They had the slide hammer on the ground there ready to just pull the front left guard off what would have been the shoulder of the new tyre if there was any damage, but I think they've actually got away with it pretty well.
Still 20 laps to run. Ingall is serviced. Only 1 driver left to pit, and that is Paul Morris.
I think he got a bit of clear air in the recent laps as well. That may have helped Russell's cause.
Guys, all they can put it down to here at FBR is, remember at the start of the race when he got the jump on Mark Scaife, he had a little bit of a lock-up going down into 1. They feel like that little flat spot on the tyre possibly then has just kept grabbing in the same spot and finally gone, Neil.
That's right, Darryl. What happens sometimes when you do put a tiny mark on the tyre, it'll look, we talk about it being a 50-cent piece, and if there is a flat spot, it will fall to it again repeatedly. Now, Jamie Whincup's been given the bad sportsmanship flag for weaving on the straight. That's Here's a zinger replay of Todd Kelly and Jamie Whincup. What's happening here? Is there a little contact? Yes, there is. And is there more? Maybe there was more to that. But yeah, the tyre tends to always fall back down to that spot. So even if you pick it up again in a couple of other locations around the track, it further takes more rubber off that tyre and aggravates the flat spot. Then it starts to shake back through the steering wheel. Ultimately, there's only 4 millimetres of tread depth in these Dunlop controlled tyres. So it doesn't take much imagination with a car that's 1.5 tonnes. You pinch the brake momentarily and you'll take that surface of rubber away very quickly and reveal the belts very, very rapidly indeed.
We've cycled through all of the drivers that must stop. Paul Morris was the final one, and that means Mark Scaife is the race leader with a 2.1 second lead.
Front left wheel suspension failure here on that car, hub failure or a wishbone failure on Stephen Johnson's car. Remember this time last year they had a great round. The incompressible jack, the stubby jack goes in to make the car safe to work underneath. If they don't put that in there, they not only is it dangerous, but they cop a penalty.
Team go to work here, Neil. I was just going to say about Jamie Whincup receiving the bad sportsman flag. Ordinarily, it's the thick French accent of his engineer, Ludo Lacroix, that's on the phone. But in fact, Roland Dane has jumped in this time and said, hey, Jamie, you've been given an official warning. We've got to knock this off. So that's a shame, too, because Whincup had a good run. The Triple A team getting both cars into the top 10 shootout. And as you know, Craig Lowndes and a number of the members of the Triple A team involved in a big dirt bike ride from Brisbane all the way up to Darwin for this round. Ludo, before the race, said to me it was just amazing. No speed limits on the motorcycle on the way up through certain parts of the Northern Territory to Darwin. He loved every second of it.
I spent a little bit of time in front of the transporter with Campbell Little and Jamie and Craig Lowndes before the start of the race. I said to Campbell, I can't believe you let these blokes go and do that prior to a round. And he shrugged his shoulders. He said, what, you think I can actually stop them?
Right, let's cycle through for you. It's Scaife, Rick Kelly. Winterbottom holds a very strong third over Lowndes. Tander. Dumbrell is 6th. Jason Richards 7th. Stephen Richards 8th. Wilson 9. And Russell Ingall has hustled his way into the 10.
Yes, mate. Yes, mate. So Lowndes continues to work away at the back of Winterbottom. Scaife's in command, 2.2 seconds. Rick Kelly, Holden 1, 2, Ford 3 and 4. Garth Tander 5th. Scaife, Rick Kelly, Winterbottom, Lowndes, Tander, Dumbrell, Jason Richards, Stevie Richards, Max Wilson, Russell Ingall in the 10. Just outside, it's Whincup.
As we take a look at Paul Dumbrell on track, we've had that 1 month period off since the Winton round, and in that 1 month, he completed the run to the G Half Marathon. He completed it, the 21K, in 1 hour 31 minutes, and he beat Cam McConville, Jack Perkins and Jason Richards. So, fit young guy and driving well this year.
Two Richards together, unrelated. Stephen Richards is the man that we're riding with at the moment. See how hot he is in that car. He's got the fresh air supply into the left-hand side of the helmet. The vast majority of the field are wearing their cool suits where they have like a t-shirt with capillaries through it. It circulates ice water. So this is up at turns 8, 9, 10. This left-hander here brings you onto the front straight. Let's ride with Stephen now and enjoy this lap of Hidden Valley Raceway.
Everybody in front of you is doing exactly the same time at the moment.
Problems here for Lee Holdsworth after a career best qualifying. The dramas continue, rear right. And he will limp back to the pits. Greg, what do you have for us?
Car 17, Lee, has been wheeled into the garage. The attention is on the front left. Steve Johnson, what's happened?
Mate, we're not sure. I think it's actually broken the bottom off the shock absorber. So haven't come into contact with anyone, so I'm not really sure what's happened.
We're going to have to let him go here, boys. It doesn't sound like it gave any warning that it was going to go, and Steve says absolutely no contact caused this.
Doesn't quite have the braking performance at the bottom of the straight to get the job done. He did get the car up the inside of Stephen at turn 8 before, but really you run out of road there, unfortunately. It's not really much of an opportunity to get by. He's having a vigorous battle at the moment. He was disappointed to not come away with a better result in the last round at Winton, but did a great job, of course, in the middle race. The car's showing some speed now. This is a great battle. Before we enter the break, Russell Ingall is attacking Max Wilson. The WPS sign large off the front of Russell's car there at the moment. And Russell can't get too racy when it comes to looking for exciting ways around Max, because he's got Jamie Whincup right behind him. He'll buy into it as well.
Neil, I can tell you that Russell has been on the phone to his engineer Barry Hay saying, hey boys, get up to race control, go and have a word to them. He is not happy about Wilson allegedly weaving down the front straight and blocking him, so they're looking into that at the moment.
Well, let's watch this. We're on board with him.
Not only are they looking into it, but the confirmation came over the radio while you were talking, Greg, that he will be shown the bad sportsmanship flag this lap. There it is for car number 8, and now Russell might get a look down the inside. And he gets the move done. Oh, or does he? He's got the rear brakes locked. Contact nose to tail, but he actually gets back into position. So he just got away with that one, Russell.
And now Whincup lines up for a shot. The 888 Ford is right there. Wilson thinks about it on the inside of Russell Ingall. The 3 Ford drivers having a terrific race. This is 9th, 10th, 11th, and Wilson makes the passage easy for Whincup.
Max has lost a little bit of tyre condition there, so he's not able to defend without having to cross the other side of the road, and they won't tolerate that. Here's the replay again. Watch Russell's rear brakes right at the very end of the stop. They lock. He gets crossed up. Then he gets a little tap, but manages to get back to the left-hand side of the road and holds that spot.
Jamie Whincup's got some good pace at the moment. I think he may have something to offer Russell Ingall as they head down into 1. As we ride on board with Craig Lowndes, and he looks at Winterbottom.
What Craig Lowndes' car won't be liking on a day of such temperature is sitting in the hot airstream of Mark Winterbottom's car. I'm sure they're watching that very carefully at 888 at the moment. Not unusual where you've got marginal water temperatures at a place like this for the water temperature to rise maybe 10 or more degrees, 15 degrees when you're behind the back of another car like that.
Seeing a replay of Andrew Jones going off in the SCW Eurodrive Commodore. Meanwhile, further down the field, Greg Murphy has made up some significant places. He started 25th, he runs 16th. So heading in the right direction.
Neil, just on your point about temperature, at the commencement of the race, the ambient was 34 degrees. There's already been a variance of 2 degrees. The air temperature here at the moment is 36, but the track temperature has remained static since the commencement of the race. It's been 43 degrees, still the same right now.
It's a big number, isn't it? They'll be feeling it in the car. Greg Murphy, I bumped into him earlier in the day, and that was a short interview. How's it going? And you can imagine the response. Not happy this weekend, can't find a car balance. A little bit of a loss to try and figure out how to get the car to progress. He's chasing Jason Barguano, who's 16th at present. He's in front of his teammate Cam McConville, 17th.
Those WPS Fords go okay in a straight line.
Wilson at the moment is 11th, teammate to the man that we can see in the foreground. Barguana's 15th. Mark Scaife's got a 1.9 second margin over Rick Kelly, so it's just holding stationary at the moment. Fastest lap of the race remains Jason Bright.
Here is the race leader. Was denied a 4th consecutive pole from Jason Bright, but it doesn't look like anyone's going to deny him a race 1 victory.
Jason Bright, incidentally, if you're wondering, has inserted back into the field in 26th position, believe it or not. Very disappointing for him. Scaife's lap times at the moment are in the mid-11s. Rick Kelly's a little bit quicker. He's just taken some time from him. 11.67 for Scaife, 11.33 for Rick Kelly, 11.86 Mark Winterbottom, 11.91 Craig Lowndes, 11.68 for Garth Tander. Jason Richards is speedy as well at the moment, 11.37.
When we came out of that last commercial break, Jason Richards was hounding Dumbrell. To update you there, he did get that position. So Jason runs 6th as this battle will not go away. Lowndes is doing everything he can to get by Winterbottom.
This is turn 6. You'll be really patient with the throttle here because the radius just tightens near the exit. If you pick the throttle up too early, either understeer off the road or you can wind the car sideways quickly. See the readout on the dash, the bar graph is RPM, obviously 7,500 rev limit. The big number in the middle is the gear selection position. Second gear, third, this is on the front straight, 4th, 5th and then 6th. Jamie Whincup, another warning this time for curb hopping and bringing dirt onto the racetrack, so he's going to see another bad sportsmanship flag. And that'll go out on the race management channel. 1.4 seconds mark Scaife Rick Kelly now.
It's the men inside Team Better Electrical, the 888 team, Roland Dane, the team principal.
And the reason they're looking so closely, Lee, is at the time set by Mark Winterbottom on the last lap around, the variance was something like 4/10. Lowndes was quicker than Mark Winterbottom. And the radio message to the next car in the queue, which is Garth Tander, from his engineer Matthew Nielsen, is, hey, sit tight there. We reckon that Winterbottom's getting a little bit erratic. We could pick up another position before this one is over.
Yeah, Tander's sitting back in 5th at the moment. Hasn't been able to come up with these guys and offer them anything.
Bear with us, mate. We're working on it now. Just stay clean, stay close.
Mark Winterbottom's got a little better mid-corner speed there at turn 10, and see how it just gives him the opportunity to carry more speed onto the straight and hold a margin. And it means that he's not vulnerable down here under brakes to Craig, who's always strong under brakes and always good from the point where he turns the car in to the apex of the corner. Craig typically makes a lot of speed there. He's only ever won one race here, Craig Lowndes. He's often performed very well, but for one reason or another, the results have gone away. Never won a round. Exiting 4 here, coming up to the slowest corner of the track. It's second gear.
What's more important here, mate? Have a good balance through this tight, twisty section around the back, or to have good horsepower in a straight line?
I think Mark Scaife summed it up very well earlier in the day when we were covering qualifying in the shootout, that you've got to have a bit of everything here. Jason Bargwanna and Greg Murphy get together up at the hairpin. You really can't focus on any one aspect of the car here. You must have a car that delivers everything. Here's the replay of what happened up at the hairpin. And nose-to-tail contact between Murphy and Bargwanna. And I think that Greg might be in a bit of strife there. Yeah, the car must brake well, must turn well, it must have thunder, must have good torque characteristic, put its power to the road nicely. You just can't be missing any element of your game at this racetrack.
Well, it wasn't that long ago Mark Scaife's lead was 2.2 seconds. It's now down to 1.2 seconds.
Greg Murphy's got a case to answer as Lowndes has a peep here at turn 1, and they've given him a drive-through penalty for making contact up in the valley of turn 5.
Oh, that'll make his day.
Not good. He was 15th.
He made very good progress. He made 10 positions. New championship leader, Garth Tander, is right behind this car we are riding with, Craig Lowndes. He's 5th on the road at the moment. Then Jason Richards, Paul Dumbrell, Stephen Richards, Ingle and Whincup. That's the top 10. Closing half dozen laps, and Tander has caught Lowndes. That's what Greg mentioned a little earlier. Matty Nielsen, his race engineer, said, be patient, we'll see how we go. as these guys are tangling over each other.
A little bit of frustration for Tander, given that he now sits 5th and he started 3rd, so he's yielded a couple of spots that he doesn't want to. That all counts, of course, towards your position for tomorrow's reverse grid race, and then ultimately the grid for race 3. Still an outstanding command from race control to Greg Murphy. Hasn't actually observed that penalty just yet. He's got to do that within 3 laps of the issue of that command.
Coming up rapidly on the back of Stephen Richards is Russell Ingall. Here comes the Caltex Ford. So after starting 13th, Ingall is 9th and pressing hard for 8th. Now, considering the glum face we saw early this morning, he wasn't all that thrilled with the car after yesterday's 2.5-hour practice session. This is a positive sign for the defending champion.
Murphy now observing that pit lane drive-through in car 51. Russell looks like he's in slightly better shape now at this back end of the race. Only a few laps to go. There's Greg in the super cheap Holden. A fair bit of rubbish on the windscreen on that car too, I think, at the moment.
And as he completes his drive-through, just getting back onto Ingall, who could forget the nightmare year he had, the run he had last year. Remember, his car wouldn't start for the 3rd and final race. It ended in tears for him, literally sitting on the garage floor.
And not before he'd been through some trauma already, because he qualified at the top of the tree. He then missed the scales, the way on the way to the pit lane, so that put him at the very back of the grid. And then he marched forward in races 1 and 2, and he was actually in contention. And unbelievably, the car wouldn't start for the 3rd race, so he was 14th in race 1 and he was 4th in race 2, and then the darn thing wouldn't start for race 3. So that was a very, very tough break for him.
Scapes responded. There's Barry Hay talking to the Stone Brothers Brains Trust. Scapes responded to Rick Kelly's challenge and pulled out 0.3 of a second. So the lead's back up to 1.5 now.
Oh!
Dumbrell's run wide. Very wide. He loses 1 position, maybe 2. He's got the preferred line into the left-hander.
Ingall was a little vulnerable then to Jamie Whincup. He had to slam back down on the left side of the road. He was high and wide, focusing on what Dumbrell was doing. As Larry looks on.
There's Angela Richards in the background, Stephen's wife, monitoring things closely. So Stephen goes 1 position higher, but Dumbrell is in dangerous ground here. Ingall's got the momentum.
Good exit here for Russell. He'll come down the inside here. But he's being covered. Look, they're going all the way to the left side of the road, and that was something that was talked about. You can move once, but once only. Whoa! Once you go down that side of the road, you've got to stay there, Paul. And that's what he's done. Oh, and he won't be able to hang on to it down there, or will he? Woof. Very, very close for Paul Dumbrell.
Running out of laps, 3 to go.
He did what he was told to do. I mentioned earlier on this briefing that we attended earlier in the weekend, where the drivers were told that the race control is going to be very vigilant with this. They reckon there's too much weaving going on in the races, and this is a track that encourages it. They don't mind if you cover once, but once you go to the left side of the road, oh, when Paul gets crossed up again, Russell was close to drilling him right in the B pillar.
Had to let him go there for the right-hander.
He's all over him like a cheap suit.
Finally,
no, it's not done yet, because it's a left-hander coming up.
Oh, this is good stuff. And good clean driving too from Russell Ingall.
From both of them.
There's been a number of occasions where there could have been a collision.
If he gets a good exit here, he might get down the left side of the road. But once again, you could probably expect that Paul will go left, which he's doing now, slowly closing the gap, and then the dust will come up. So if Russell wants to do much, he's got to go around the other way, which he now does. Paul's not permitted to come back and cover him now, the way the rules are interpreted. Russell will try and crisscross on the exit.
And Whincup stayed to the extreme right, looking for options. He continues to watch these guys arm wrestle while Stephen Richards has skipped away. The lead is down to 1.2 seconds, and Winterbottom still has the edge over Lowndes.
Oh. Jamie locks the rear brakes. He doesn't want to pile into the back of Russell, and he just had to prop a little bit more then late in the stop. Difficult sometimes when you're racing someone when you're the third guy in the queue, because much of what happens is dictated by the lead player in the game, and everybody reacts after that. So Russell, who's the meat in the sandwich, his rhythm changes because he's dealing with traffic, and then all of a sudden you've got to alter your brake pressure, alter the line of the car, and that can trip you over. So here we go again, carbon copy replay. Everybody marches to the left. There goes Paul on cue, down the left side of the road. Russell will go to the right, or does he? Yes. And Jamie plays the game on the outside.
Final 2 laps of this 2.9 kilometre Hidden Valley circuit. And the race lead for the first time has come down to less than a second. Kelly is coming in on skate.
He's closer here. He might poke it up the inside at 4. He's going to have a think about it. No, Paul's a wake up and just positions the car in the middle of the road. That'll frustrate Russell. He gives him a little love bite in the way into the corner. Now he has a look again. Now the tricky thing here is that Paul's beginning to drive in the centre of the road. That won't go down too well in the big tower just next to us.
Dumbrell is 7th in the standings this year. He's having the racing year of his life.
And he's doing a great job, you've got to say. His performance at Winton was terrific. He's withstanding the blowtorch here at the moment.
Look how much Richo skipped away, though. He's disappeared. Thanks, fellas, for fighting. You've taken all the heat off me. Last lap coming up.
And the bumper's been dislodged a little on Russell's car. Last lap. Just under 3Ks to go. What's Russell got? Paul's playing a percentage game at the moment. He hasn't been warned, so as far as they're concerned, he's doing everything right. Everybody's out of grip at this late stage. They're in the 12s now. The tyre condition has gone away. They're just delicately guiding and gliding these cars.
You're watching the fight for 8th place. Meanwhile, up front, Mark Scaife is less than half a lap away from his 5th race win this year. The nearest is 2. That's Craig Lowndes.
Rick kept the pressure up, but I think Mark would also have been just nursing the car to the end, trying to make sure he's got tyres for the final run.
Credit to Winterbottom too. He has really held that pressure from Craig Lowndes and not faltered. But Mark Scaife wins race 1 here at Hidden Valley, his 5th of the year. And Rick Kelly in for a fine 2nd. Quite a substantial gap back to 3rd. Winterbottom over Lowndes, over Tander. And a good run here. Look at Whincup. Whincup's right alongside, and he's got him. Here will get Russell Ingall on the line. Jamie Whincup does it. How about that? Squeezes Ingall for 9th. And Ludo Lacroix saying good work to his man. Well, that will infuriate Russell Ingall even more. He couldn't get by on Dumbrell, and Whincup got the run out of turn 10 and to the line. But there's your man, Mark Scaife. Was denied pole, but certainly not the race win. 0.7 of a second the margin in the end, and a fine win. Here is the Zinger replay, heading into turn 10, the final one.
It's because Russell was trying so hard to work on Paul. So he had to come out of the throttle there because it just gave him a tiny tap. Jamie gets his 100% throttle position a little bit earlier, and it gave him the run to the flag.
Now remember the points, just like last year, where we work off a corrected points system where after Bathurst we drop our worst round, and on corrected points as we stand at the moment, Mark Scaife is the championship leader. And we check the VB scoreboard. Scaife over Rick Kelly over Mark Winterbottom. An interesting order actually for race 1. It's the shortest of our 3. And then back into that enthralling battle of Richards, Dumbrell, Whincup and Ingall. And then just outside the 10, Max Wilson should be satisfied with that. That was a pretty decent result. Todd Kelly, Will Davison finishing in 13th ahead of Dean Canto, and Cam McConville, who started 19th, made up 4. And look how much that stop-go hurt, or that drive-through rather, hurt Greg Murphy. 26th place. And Warren Luff right at the back of the field. But here's our winner. It's Scaife's day.